very good evening, dear students. Welcome to Bajirao IAS Academy, the Hindu news analysis. So today is 18th May 2025, and today we have some very important topics for the discussion. And the first very important topic, this is important for your general studies paper 2, and we knew that India and Bangladesh relations are not good in recent times, so particularly because of the regime change in Bangladesh and the radicalist ideology that has been adopted by the current government, particularly the interim government led by Mohammad Yunus. So all these factors have led to, over a period of time, the degradation of India and Bangladesh relations. So in this context, India has recently taken a big decision that India's decided to stop all Bangladeshi exports via all land ports in India. So India has also decided to stop Bangladeshi goods export to Northeast as well. Now in this context, we'll understand why India has taken this decision. So what are the factors which compelled the Indian government to take these decisions, and how it is going to impact both India and Bangladesh relations in the short term and long term? We'll try to understand that in a very detailed manner and a very simple manner as well. So as I have already briefly expressed explained you the context. However, recently Indian government has decided that it has imposed certain restrictions. So it has imposed restrictions on Bangladeshi goods which are exported to the northeastern part of India and overseas, which uses India's land ports. Now, one thing that we should understand, when interim government's chief Mohammad Yunus, during his official visit to China, he made some remarks about India's northeast. So he said that the northeastern part of India is a landlocked region, so it has no access to sea. So in fact, Mohammad Yunus even welcomed China, right? So Mohammad Yunus welcomed China into the northeastern part of India and to Bangladesh as well. So those remarks from Mohammad Yunus sparked outrage on the Indian side, right? Because these remarks are something like it threatens India's sovereignty and territorial integrity. So therefore, there is a backlash from Indian side about these remarks made by the interim government's chief. Now, India recently taken this decision to stop all goods export to Bangladesh, so exports to Northeast from the Bangladesh. However, this move actually appears as a response to Bangladesh's continuous use of non-tariff barriers. Now, in fact, if you look at Bangladesh, Bangladesh is the largest trading partner for India in South Asia. And India is also having trade surplus with Bangladesh. But the problem with the Bangladesh is that when India has been exporting goods into Bangladesh, so Bangladesh has been imposing a lot of non-tariff barriers. So non-tariff barriers are those barriers, primarily the administrative delays, right, and sanitary and phytosanitary measures, right? So these are not essentially tariff barriers, but these are the extra tariff barriers. So they won't include the tariff, for example, administrative delays, asking for licenses, imposing more such restrictions on goods. But in recent times, Bangladesh has been imposing more such non-tariff barriers on Indian goods, and this measure from the Indian government would be seen as a response to Bangladesh imposing non-tariff barriers or restrictions on Indian goods which are entering into Bangladesh's market. So I hope it is clear for you. Now, if you look at the bilateral trade between India and Bangladesh in the financial year 23-24, in this financial year, the total bilateral trade between India and Bangladesh would be around 14.01 billion. So out of 14.01 billion, so India exports a huge quantity of goods into Bangladesh, around 12.05 billion out of 14.01 billion. India export goods into Bangladesh. However, Bangladesh just export only 1.97 billion worth of goods. So here it indicates that we have a huge trade surplus with Bangladesh. So even though if we have a huge trade surplus with Bangladesh, in recent times Bangladesh has been imposing the non-tariff barriers. Bangladesh has been imposing non-tariff barriers. So this non-tariff barriers are restricting Indian goods entering into Bangladeshi markets, right? So that's why India compelled to take this decision. So not just that, in fact, interim government's chief making such remarks on northeastern part of India. So this has also provoked the Indian government. So earlier also we have understood that Indian government, the suspended transshipment hubs to Bangladeshi exports to other countries, right? So in continuation of that particular decision, India has taken another important decision as well. Now here, if we talk about the trade related some important facts here, for Bangladesh, India is the second largest trading partner in Asia, and Bangladesh is India's largest trading partner in South Asia. So if you look at the South Asia and Indian subcontinent, Bangladesh is largest trading partner for India. But for Bangladesh, India is the second largest trading partner. So you could clearly see when we talk about the barriers to trade, so there are two different types of barriers: tariff barriers and non-tariff barriers. So when we look into tariff barriers, so export tariff, import tariff, and transit tariff, or taxes, customs, so all those things would come under the tariffs. But what are the non-tariff barriers? For example, imposing certain quotas. So you should not export more than this quota. So subsidies which are given to the domestic industries by the countries, right? So subsidies, excessive subsidies would lead to higher production of those goods, and it would limit the export. It would limit the certain goods quantity imports, right? So other things also, like product testing, local content requirements, currency controls, administrative delays, embargoes. So all these factors would be considered as the non-tariff barriers. So this is the difference between the tariff barriers and non-tariff barriers. So you can also include phytosanitary measures and sanitary measures, phytosanitary and sanitary measures as part of the non-tariff barriers, because both sanitary and phytosanitary measures are concerned with respect to the quality of the certain products. Now in this context, so one thing that we should understand, that India has announced the new restrictions on Bangladeshi products which are being exported to Northeast. So as of now, if you look at the northeastern part of India, so this northeastern part of India is also getting some pro goods from the Bangladeshi side. Now Indian government completely restricted the goods which enter into northeastern part of India from Bangladesh, and this move from the Indian government would be seen as a reciprocal response. So reciprocal response to what? Reciprocal response to increasing the non-tariff barriers, or the restrictions on Indian goods which are entering into Bangladeshi market, right? I hope it is clear for you. Now in this context, the Director General of Foreign Trade issued certain notification. So certain notification in this regard, and this notification has been clearly mentioning that the restrictions will apply to the land custom stations. So there are certain trading points called land custom stations. So through these land custom stations, goods from Bangladesh would enter into the northeastern part of India, right? So through this land customs stations, goods would enter from Bangladesh to northeastern part of India, and the Director General of Foreign Trade made it very, very clear that the restrictions would apply to all land customs stations and even the integrated checkposts in states like Assam, Meghalaya, Tripura and Mizoram, right? So I hope it is clear for you, and in fact these are the states which actually share the borders with Bangladesh. So if you look at the map, both all these states, Assam, Meghalaya, Tripura and Mizoram, they share their borders with the Bangladesh, and in fact in all these states the land custom stations and integrated checkposts have been will apply these restrictions on Bangladeshi goods which are entering into the northeastern part of India. So there are certain product categories. To these product categories, the restrictions would apply, right? For example, ready-made garments, wooden furniture, plastic and PVC goods, and fruit flavored carbonated drinks, baked goods, snacks. So all these different product categories to which the restrictions would apply. However, there are certain goods certain items which are removed or excluded from these restrictions. For example, natural gas is restricted, excluded. Natural gas is excluded. And apart from that, all goods which are exported to both Bhutan and Nepal by Bangladesh through Indian territory, so they will also be excluded from the restrictions imposed by the Directorate General of Foreign Trade on Bangladesh. So one thing that you should understand here, so Bangladesh actions, particularly the non-tariff barriers on Indian goods which enter into Bangladeshi markets. So Bangladesh has been importing a huge non-tariff barriers, so that is unfair, right? So it is like an unfair trade practice that is followed by Bangladesh, and as a reciprocal response or a reciprocal measure, now India also decided to impose restrictions across all land custom stations and integrated checkposts, and also restrict Bangladeshi manufactured goods entering into the northeastern part of India. Now, what is the background? What exactly triggered this response from the government of India? So there are certain reasons which actually trigger this decision from the government of India. And in fact, so one thing is that as I have already told you, that the interim government is headed by Mr. Mohammad Yunus. So interim government chief Mr. Mohammad, yeah. So interim government chief Mr. Mohammad Yunus, while his visit to Beijing, so he actually described the northeastern part of India as a landlocked part, right? So he described northeast as a landlocked part, and Bangladesh, he said that Bangladesh is the only guardian to the ocean. So that has actually sparked some outrage on the Indian side, and this was the point that has led to a kind of a tensions between both India and Bangladesh, because northeastern part is very, very important for India, and northeastern part of India is connected to the mainstream part of India through a narrow chicken neck corridor or a Siliguri corridor. And Bangladesh in recent times making such remarks on Siliguri corridor, northeastern part of India, is not at all acceptable for the Indian government. So that's why this has triggered a kind of an outrage on the Indian side. And secondly, so India has also interpreted this along with the persistent trade restrictions. So what are those persistent trade restrictions? They are particularly the non-tariff barriers. So Bangladeshi side has been regularly imposing non-tariff barriers on Indian goods. So Bangladesh importing such non-tariff barriers, so India had seen this or interpreted along with a persistent trade restrictions, a disregard for the mutual trade balance between India and Bangladesh, and that has led to India taking this particular decision. So we'll understand the existing transit framework and the disparities which are existing between India and Bangladesh. So it is being said that, as I have already told you, that in India, northeastern part of India, particularly Assam, Meghalaya, Mizoram, and Tripura. So these are the states in northeastern part of India. They share borders with Bangladesh. So within these states, there are around 11 land transit points, right? So there are around 11 land transit points in the northeast. So these 11 land transit points, they trade with Bangladesh, right? So out of these 11 land transit points, 3 are located in Assam, 2 are located in Meghalaya, and 6 are located in Tripura. However, India allowed Bangladeshi goods to transit through all land ports and seaports without any restrictions before, right? So without any restrictions, Bangladeshi goods, they can enter into the Indian markets, they can enter into Indian economy freely. However, Bangladesh continued to restrict Indian exports. So on the one hand, Bangladesh is having an uninterrupted access to Indian markets, right? So they have uninterrupted access to Bangladeshi goods. But the problem is that Bangladesh continued to restrict the Indian exports through these land transit ports and the integrated checkposts which are bordering the region. So the examples of Bangladesh imposing restrictions on Indian goods which enter into Bangladesh, including yarn exports from India via land ports. So they were stopped from April 13, right? So whatever yarn that India has been exporting to Bangladesh, that has been stopped on April 13 first. Second is Indian rice exports have been banned through Hilli and Benapole integrated checkposts since April 15. So this is the second such move where Bangladesh has been importing restrictions on Indian goods. So the third move is that Indian exports also face rigorous inspections. So when you send Indian goods to Bangladesh, so there will be rigorous inspections, right? So Indian goods are not allowed to freely move into the Bangladeshi markets, Bangladeshi economy, right? But there are rigorous inspections upon entry into Bangladesh. So all these factors have actually compelled the government to take such a decision to suspend a trade with Bangladesh, particularly to the northeastern part of India. However, so India has clarified that Bangladesh continues to restrict Indian exports. So this is a fact, right? So this is evident from last 2-3 months that Bangladesh has been continues to restrict Indian exports via land ports, especially those bordering the northeastern part of India, despite both India and Bangladesh have the bilateral agreements in this regard. Right. So, however, the northeastern India's industrial growth has been suffering. Now, why industrial growth in northeastern part of India is suffering? Because Bangladeshi manufactured goods are entering into the northeastern part of India, and because of this reason, the manufacturing industries in northeast, they are losing the competitive advantage. They are not getting adequate employment opportunities. So industrial establishments are disincentivized by uninterrupted access of Bangladeshi goods into the Indian markets, right? So overall, the industrial growth in the northeastern part of India suffers due to the high transit charges. So even if the northeastern part of India, any goods manufactured in northeast, and if those goods are entering into Bangladesh, now Bangladesh has been imposing the high transit charges. So high transit charges means that these goods from northeast will become more expensive. They will become more expensive in Bangladesh. So if these goods become more expensive in Bangladesh, then they would lose the competitive advantage with the Bangladeshi goods, right? So that is the problem here. But Bangladesh is not providing the reciprocal access. For example, Bangladesh is freely accessing the Indian markets, but Bangladesh is not giving a free access to Indian goods. So that is the main problem here that has compelled the government to again take this decision. And in fact, the port restrictions by the Indian government, or the port restrictions, are meant to support the local manufacturing, right? So if Indian government restricted the port access to Bangladeshi goods, so in order to ensure that it will support the local manufacturing and also ensure a level playing field for Indian industries. So that essentially means that whatever Bangladesh has been doing for the manufactured goods from the northeastern part of India into Bangladesh, so Indian government has also decided to do the same thing, right? So this is what is called as the reciprocal move that has been taken by the Indian government. So therefore, ultimately, India asserts that Bangladesh cannot cherry pick the trade benefits, right? For example, some aspects of trade which benefits Bangladesh, and Bangladesh is favoring those aspects of trade but neglecting the other things. So trade has to be fair, and this is what Indian side has been conveying to Bangladesh, right? So therefore, Indian government is very clear that Bangladesh must engage in a fair reciprocal trade practices. It should not cherry pick the trade benefits. And in fact, so India also made it clear that it is open to dialogue and India also insisted that Bangladesh must create a constructive atmosphere for a regular engagement, right? So that's how India has actually taken this decision on Bangladesh. Now, the relations between India and Bangladesh are also deteriorating in recent times because of number of factors. So earlier, Sheikh Hasina used to maintain a very good relations with India, but after Sheikh Hasina was overthrown by the student protests, so student protests and subsequent takeover of the country by the army, and then there was an interim government, and now elections did not take place in Bangladesh, and this interim government is headed by Mr. Mohammad Yunus. So after interim government came to power in Bangladesh, the relations between India and Bangladesh started deteriorating. So there are the radical elements getting space in Bangladesh, and so apart from that, the anti-India stance that has been developing or growing in Bangladesh. And similarly, Bangladesh's growing relations with both China and Pakistan is a cause of concern. And Bangladesh's assertive statements, particularly the high level political leaders making such assertive statements on northeastern part of India and inviting China, would certainly be a concern for India, right? So I hope you have understood this. And next topic is cyberbullying, and this is very important for your gender studies paper 3, right? Science and technology and internal security. So this area is very, very important, and this article has been given in the Hindu newspaper, right? So we'll understand what exactly is a cyberbullying, what are the impacts of cyberbullying, and how to protect oneself from cyberbullying, and what are the legislative frameworks which are already established to protect individuals from the same, right? So why it is in news? So it is in news because of reasons that recently, Pahalgam terror attack took place. So after this Pahalgam terror attack took place, Himanshi Narwal. So Himanshi Narwal was a widow of a Navy Lieutenant Vinay Narwal. So Vinay Narwal was killed in this Pahalgam terror attack by the terrorists, and Himanshi Narwal is a widow of Vinay Narwal. Now she faced a severe online abuse, right? So after the death of her husband in this gruesome terror attack, so she started facing severe online abuse, right? So why she faced severe online abuse? So because after this Pahalgam terror attack, after she lost her husband, she started appealing for peace and also rejected the anti-Muslim sentiment that has been growing in India. And because of this particular reason, she faced a lot of abuse online, right? Because it was actually said that in Pahalgam terror attack, terrorists asked religion before killing people, right? So because of that particular reason, so there was a growing anti-Muslim sentiment in the country after the Pahalgam terror attack, but she appealed for peace, and she also rejected the anti-Muslim sentiment that has been growing in India, and that's why she faced a lot of online abuse. So the second example is that Indian government conducted Operation Sindoor as a retaliation to Pahalgam terror attack. But when things are escalating, so Indian government and Pakistan have announced a ceasefire. And this ceasefire announcement has been made by Foreign Secretary Vikram Misri on Indian side. So after Foreign Secretary Vikram Misri made this announcement, a lot of people who don't like a ceasefire with Pakistan, so they again started abusing Vikram Misri. right? So after this, Vikram Misri completely closed his Twitter account, or now it is called as X account. So these incidents are pointing out towards the fact that how dangerous, how serious the problem of the online abuse or the cyber bullying. So I hope you have understood these two examples. And in fact, these incidents have been highlighting how anonymous, so those people who are not really known, anonymous online trolls on people particularly target individuals who often challenge the dominant narrative. Now here the dominant narrative is the anti-Muslim sentiment is the dominant narrative, but she appealed for a peace, and she also rejected the anti-Muslim sentiment, and because of that reason she faced a severe online abuse. Now here, those individuals who challenge the dominant narratives, they are facing the online trolls, right? So that's why this cyberbullying is a serious problem, and it is important that there needs to be certain legal frameworks, certain safeguards that have to be established to deal with the problem of cyberbullying. However, in order to address this menace of cyberbullying, regulatory reforms are the need of the hour, because the regulatory reforms could ensure greater accountability, and it could also curb the impunity in the digital spaces that has been growing in recent times, right? So in recent times there is a rise of cybercrimes as well. So there are different cybercrimes. For example, cyberbullying is one such a cybercrime. Stalking is also a cybercrime. Hate speech, which has been growing in these social media platforms or online platforms, and even doxing have become rampant. So it is very important for us to understand what is the meaning of doxing here, right? So doxing is also a form of cybercrime. So cyberbullying is actually trolling somebody, abusing somebody through online, right? So here doxing actually means that publicly revealing the private information of some individuals. So imagine that you have your own private space, and you have your own private matters, private information. So if somebody made your private information public, so that would be considered as unacceptable, because Supreme Court has also made it clear that the right to privacy is part of the fundamental right under Article 21 of the Constitution in Puttaswamy judgment. But here doxing actually means that publicly revealing your personal and private information, such as your address, your phone number, and this very often leads to real world harassment and even threats that you would face. However, here the problem is that the disproportionate impact is on women, children, and minorities. Now we all knew that the minorities, women, children, so they are vulnerable, they are marginalized sections. It is very, very important that we need to protect them from the worst impact of the cybercrime, such as cyberbullying, cyberstalking, doxing, and hate speech, right? So in this regard, the research has been clearly indicating that online abuse frequently targeting women and minorities and even children as well, and it is being driven by the coordinated political moves as well. And in fact, the abuse can escalate to rape threats, death threats also. So therefore, so it actually highlights how serious this problem is actually, right? Because very often this online abuse leading to the rape threats and death threats for the women, minorities, and children also. However, the experts have been pointing out that there are certain gaps, and it is very important for us to fill those gaps. Now, what are the gaps which have been existing here? Now, in this context, so India actually lack specific laws that have to be followed. So specific laws which could deal with the online abuse. So hate speech, trolling, doxing, and stalking, right? Because the emerging nature of technology and the policies which are actually bridging the digital divide. So what has been happening is that the technology has been penetrating into almost all segments of the population, right? So it also has its negative impact. So it is very important to address this negative impact through the legal frameworks. So we need to have a robust and a comprehensive legal frameworks, and those legal frameworks have to be established. However, when we talk about the legal framework that could deal with these problems, particularly the cybercrime, so in India there are two legislative frameworks that could actually deal with this problem, right? So one is the Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita 2023 and the Information Technology Act 2000, right? So as of now, we have been approaching the cyber crimes through the Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita 2023 or the Information Technology Act 2000. So apart from that, we don't have any comprehensive legislative framework that could potentially address the problem of hate speech. And there are such certain structural limitations also which are existing, and it is also pointing out towards the need for a reform, right? So what are the structural limitations which are existing? So when we talk about the structural limitations, so there is a lack of a comprehensive legislative framework that could address the online abuse, trolling and cybercrime, right? So in fact, it also fails to address the collective online harassment and a sustained abuse that isn't clearly obscene or threatening. And in fact, in India, laws like stalking under the Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita are considered as gender specific in nature, right? So they deal with a particular gender only, but they don't account for a mob led digital abuse. So therefore, it is very important that we need to understand these gaps. We need to understand the gaps, and we should try to bridge these gaps, because over a period of time, with progress in technology, the nature of these crimes also changing. So therefore, it is very important for us to address these problems. However, provisions like defamation or intimidation, so they require a proof of threat and the reputational damage. So however, they are very often inadequate in a fast-paced anonymous world of online trolling. So these are the existing issues, existing challenges that have to be addressed through a comprehensive legislative framework, right? So however, as we have already talked about this, that India's legal tools, so legal tools in India, so that could actually deal with the problem of the cybercrime. As of now, we don't have any comprehensive framework. So section 69A of the IT Act, so this section 69 of the IT Act, that actually allows the government to block online content in the interest of public order, national security and the foreign relations, right? So this is one a legal mechanism which is available to deal with this problem. Fine. So second thing is that non-complaint platforms, for example, earlier we have talked about the safe harbor mechanism, right? So safe harbor mechanism, so safe harbor mechanism is primarily provided for the online intermediaries or the social media platforms. So these are the social media platforms, and they are actually provided the safe harbor mechanism. So they are not responsible for the third party information that is posted in their social media platforms, right? So that is the safe harbor. So if government finds that any any social media post which is which is promoting abuse, hate speech, which has been promoting trolling that could threaten even national security, sovereignty, so all those different messages, so those will be flagged by the government to these social media platforms. And if social media platforms, if they don't take any decision on the government suggestions, so their safe harbor mechanism will be lost, and they will be legally liable for hosting such information which has been promoting the abuse, trolling, hate speeches, all those things, right? So in fact, the IT Act section 79 provides safe harbor mechanism for the social media platforms, right? So what is the safe harbor? So as I have already told you, safe harbor is a legal principle right? So legal principle that protects or shields the social media platforms, online platforms, from liability for the user generated content, and it has been mentioned under section 79 of the IT Act. And in fact, it also ensures that platforms are not penalized for content that they didn't create, right? So this is the safe harbor mechanism, and that has been provided for the social media platforms. So what are the challenges which are existing in this context? There are various challenges, right? So first challenge is the enforcement remains the weakest link here, because so experts have been pointing out that there's a poor enforcement of existing legal remedies to deal with the problem of cybercrime. So there are laws, but the problem is poor enforcement. Therefore, there is a need to strengthen the enforcement of already existing laws, along with creating a comprehensive law that could deal with all these problems. And secondly, government directives. So if government issues any directions in this regard, so those directions of the government are swiftly implemented. But the ordinary users, if they report any harassment, so the problem is that no decision will be taken, or they never receive a timely redressal of their issues as well. So this is also another major problem that has been eroding the trust on the existing institutions, existing mechanisms, that people really get justice. So if they have gone through the harassment, abuse, trolling, all these things. So apart from that, there is also a minimal institutional support, and there is a lack of public awareness about this. So there is a need for increasing public awareness, and there should be a strong institutional support and mechanism, and that has to be established, right? So legal options become a last resort for the people. So therefore, it has been leading to psychological and legal trauma, and stress has been building up, and it has also been creating mental health problems among the people, and the suicidal tendencies are also being the major problem here. And similarly, the legal and structural barriers to justice are also existing, because so it is very often argued that the critical challenges like anonymity of the offenders who actually abuse, troll, harass people, particularly women and children, and the jurisdictional complexity which has been existing, so transnational, interstate, so that is what is called as the jurisdictional complexity, and the inadequate cybercrime training. So all are considered as the legal and structural barriers. They have to be addressed by a comprehensive legislative framework that could actually address the existing gaps, and particularly aimed at a swift action on these social media posts which target an individual, or addressing the problems which are in the which are already existing when it comes to dealing with the cyber security, right? For example, how to prevent this cyberbullying. So education and digital citizenship is very important, because people lack adequate awareness on this, and there is a need to monitor online activities, report, block bullies, and discuss the cyberbullying with the parents, with the friends, right? So support victims and enforce penalties, raise awareness among people about the worst consequences of cyberbullying, and also the parental involvement is also necessary and important. So next important topic is National Manuscripts Mission. So we'll understand what exactly is National Manuscripts Mission and how it is important for your exam, and this has been given in the Hindu newspaper. So recently, Prime Minister Narendra Modi Prime Minister Narendra Modi will launch a revamped National Manuscripts Mission, and this has been announced in the Union Budget. And in fact, Prime Minister Narendra Modi will launch this on June 9th, right? So National Manuscript Mission. So under this National Manuscripts Mission, so India's rich heritage of ancient knowledge, right? So in ancient times, different works are written in these manuscripts. Now it is very important that we need to find out, we need to decipher, we need to understand what they have actually written about the existing practices. right? So we can consider it as a rich heritage of our ancient Indian knowledge, because it could also provide us important insights about our country and different other practices, right? So therefore it is on the verge of a transformative revival with the launch of National Manuscripts Mission. So if this National Manuscripts Mission, if it is fully implemented, so we will understand what exactly is written in these manuscripts, because they will be ultimately in the public domain. So you will also get the opportunity to read and understand things which were written during the ancient times, and it is a source of ancient Indian heritage and the knowledge as well. And in fact, so it will be inaugurated by Prime Minister Narendra Modi on June 9, 2025, and this initiative is now named as a Gyan Bharatam Mission, right? So its name has been changed, and now its name has been changed to Jnana Bharatam Mission, right? So this Jnana Bharatam Mission seeks to digitize, conserve, and even make accessible over 1 crore manuscripts scattered across the country, right? So there are around 1 crore manuscripts, and these manuscripts will be digitized, and they will be protected, conserved, and they will also be made public, right? So around 1 crore manuscripts. And in fact, this mission, so National Manuscripts Mission, envisioned as a national endeavor to safeguard India's rich intellectual legacy, and it also aimed at creating a centralized, a structured approach to the knowledge preservation. And in fact, when we talk about the National Manuscripts Mission, so this National Manuscripts Mission was initially launched in the year 2003, right? So it was initially launched in the year 2003, and it was a program under Indira Gandhi National Center for Arts. So Indira Gandhi National Center for Arts has launched this National Manuscripts Mission in the year 2003. So however, despite the scale of its mandate, so it did not scale up as expected due to certain institutional and operational constraints which were existing. So therefore, the National Manuscripts Mission has so far prepared a metadata for around 52 lakh manuscripts around the country, and about 3 lakh manuscripts have been digitized, and only 1.3 lakh manuscripts have been uploaded online, and just 70,000 are currently accessible to the public as well. However, a key reason behind the limited public access of these manuscripts under the National Manuscripts Mission is a lack of clear access policy. So policy is lacking to access the ancient manuscripts, particularly with private manuscript owners who actually control around 80% of India's total manuscript collection. So this is also another major problem that has been limiting access to manuscripts to the general public. Now this mission, National Manuscripts Mission, has been revamped into Gyan Bharatam Mission, and Union government has been prioritizing this. So in the Union Budget 2025, so a significant increase in the financial allocation for the National Manuscripts Mission. So in fact, around 60 crore rupees have been allocated to the Gyan Bharatam Mission by the Union government from earlier 3.5 crore rupees. And in fact, this move will also address the scale of the challenge, and it will also integrate the modern technology into the preservation ecosystem of the manuscripts or ancient heritage of India. So Gyan Bharatam Mission will take a comprehensive approach by doing a number of things, particularly surveying and documenting the manuscripts which are lying with institutions, private collectors, museums and libraries. Secondly, once we collect and document them, so then digitizing them and conserving rare and fragile folios, setting up autonomous institution to oversee this particular program, And apart from that, the revamped program Gyan Bharatam mission will no longer be a subset of the IGNCA, right? And it will have a standalone structure allowing a greater efficiency and the agility as well. So it will no longer be part of IGNCA, right? So Indira Gandhi National Center for Arts. So earlier a national manuscripts mission has been launched in the year 2003 as part of Indira Gandhi National Center for Arts, but now it will no longer be part of this Indira Gandhi National Center for Arts, and there will be a greater efficiency and agility by setting up an autonomous institution to oversee the entire program, right? So that's all in this lecture, and thank you so much. And if you have any doubts regarding this, so you can comment your doubts. We'll answer those doubts as well.